Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam.
Good day to all of you. It is my pleasure and privilege to give talk in the refresher course. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of the refresher course and specifically Dr. Devendra Jhala for inviting me to give a talk in this refresher course. Now, why I said it is my privilege and pleasure, because this refresher course is organized by the Gujarat University, and I have spent 35 years of teaching, research, and my academic life in Gujarat University. So if any program which is organized by the Gujarat University, it is my pleasure to participate in that program and contribute. As I say, as it is mentioned in my CV, I'm retired from Gujarat University in 2015, and then I was there as a UGC Emeritus Professors, and that were completed in 2017. So today I'm going to talk about the topic which is related to the environment, looking to the participants of this refresher course, as most of the participants are from the biological science and few are from the home science. I'm coming from the microbiology department, and I worked on the environmental microbiology or environmental microbial technology related to the environmental microbiology and the wastewater treatment, extraction of metal ions, but they are more specific to those who are coming from the microbiology. And here, as most of the participants, either they are from botany, zoology, biochemistry, microbiology, biotechnology, and related field, even the environmental microbiology. So I thought I should take a topic which most of the participants will enjoy and will get interest. So I have selected the topic noteworthy environmental grief or environmental concern and our role in the environmental pollutions or whatever the problem which is created in the environment, how we can solve these problems. Now in this 21st century, if we talk about our Mother Earth, which is facing a lot of environmental problems due to the pollutions, climate change, acid rain, global warming. These are the few. So who is responsible for the creation of these problems? How we can minimize the problems, or what are the solutions for this? And if we are not finding out the solutions, what would be the effect of this increasing pollutions in the environment? And once the environment is affected, what is their effect on our body, our living, effects on the surrounding animal, effects on the surrounding plants and microorganisms, because these are the basic component of the environmental systems which are responsible for cyclic process of many elements for the betterment of the living life. So I would like to talk regarding the environmental problems. Now, my talk is mainly divided in introduction of the topic, what major issues, what we are facing, what are the causes of these issues, either they are the natural or they are anthropogenic. If they are anthropogenic issues, then what is our role? If the issues are created, how we can minimize this issue or try to find out the solution of these issues? What are the consequences of these environmental problems, and what would be the effect of some of these parameters on the betterment of the environment or for the destruction of environment. What we can do for a sustainable environment, and we can give better environment, better place to live for our grandchildren. And at the end of the talk, what are the major message, what we can follow from this talk and what we understand. So let us have the introduction of this topic. As I'm going to talk about the environment, and then I'm going to discuss the environmental pollutions and local, regional, and global environmental problems. So initially, I want to introduce this subject. What is environment? Then we'll discuss what is pollutions and what are the global environmental issues. In a pictorial slides, you can see what the environment. At the center of this, you can find this particular area. It represents the source of pollution. Maybe industries, maybe domestic activity, vehicles, what we can say, any activity which is going on in the environment on the planet Earth, how they are affecting. So majorly I've tried to show the 5 different effects of these pollutions. The first on the plants, plant kingdom, maybe on the forest or the agricultures. Their effects on the rainy season, on the cloud in the atmosphere, how they are affecting on the lush green Earth, planet Earth, on the water bodies, even on the mountains, their effects on the glaciers, what we are going to cover under these topics, and effects on the animals, including human beings. So this will give you the rough idea where any sort of a pollution, what we create or it is created by the natural processes, then where it is going to affect. And if it is affected at any one place, the effect is on the remaining living being also. So now let us try to understand in terms of the sentence, in terms of a words, what do you mean by the environment? The whole outer physical, chemical, and biological system in which man and other living organisms live. So what is surrounding us? Being a human being, plants, animals, atmosphere, presence of chemical in that atmosphere, or presence of chemicals in the water we drink, or presence of chemicals, soil from which we get the food. So the holistic way that in totality, any physical, chemical, and biological system which is surrounding us is known as pollutant. It's known as an environment. Of course, albeit it is not that clear, it is not that simple, that physical, chemical, and biological system, but it is albeit a very complicated ecosystem or surrounding with many interacting components, biotic component, abiotic components, and this definition is given by the UNEP 1976. Definition slightly changed from person to person, but the heart of the definition about the environment, anything surrounding us, make the environment for us, and how they are interacting, how they are affecting our body, that is the consequences of environment. The second word, what we want to understand in this talk, because environment, polluted environment, it is pollution. So here once again, I'm showing the pictorial slides to understand the pollutions. The first one, it is very clear. Pollution is everywhere. You will not find a single place which is free from pollutions. It is all over the planet. And the effect, in very brief, we can say the living beings are crying, help, I cannot breathe. I'm not getting the pure air to breathe. And this pollution, which is affecting our planet Earth or Mother Earth, if we try to understand it, the pollution is by the human, for the human, and of the human. Like for democracy, by the people, for the people, and of the people. So same way, pollution is created by the human in the environment in which human beings are living. So pollutions, what is affecting and affects to any living being, and particular to human. So it is by the human, for the human, and of the human. If once again we try to understand in terms of a word, the definition of pollutions, then we can say that any undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological characteristics. So any change, undesirable change, either in the form of a physical property, in terms of the addition of a chemicals or removal of the useful chemicals, or maybe affecting to the biological characteristics. And where? So it is either in air, water, or soil, or even in the food, that can adversely affect the health of any living being, not necessarily only human being, health of a plant, health of an animal, health of microorganisms, even the health of the ecosystem, health of the environment, which is adversely affecting the health or survival or an activity of human being or other living organisms. So any undesirable change in any particular form, either physical, chemical, or biological, and if it is affecting to our smooth living, it is known as a pollution. So we have to be careful. Many times, without our knowledge, we are creating the pollutions. The best example, particularly in Gujarat, during Navratri, in 9 days, the sound pollutions. Ever have we thought about the old people, those who are about the age of 70, 75, or 80, when you are making so much noise up to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock night, how they can sleep? Have ever we considered about because many times during this Navratri period, some of the students, they are having their examinations. So any direct or indirect effects on any living being, and that is classified as pollution. Now, what are the sources of pollution? One is the natural source, where if the pollution is created by the natural source, we are helpless. But of course, pollution from natural sources, nature have the ability to get rid of that pollution or to minimize that pollution. Only nature is helpless for anthropogenic pollutions, or where we human beings are responsible for creating the pollutions. So man-made or the anthropogenic sources of pollutions, there are many, but I have listed here some of them, which includes many other activity. So agriculture activity, which is responsible for pollutions, transportation, industrial activity and our domestic activity, how we live in our day-to-day life, either in our home, in our society, or in area, and whatever we are doing, that is also responsible for the creation of one or the other type of the pollution. And as we have seen in the previous slides, that type of pollutions may be air pollutions, water pollution, or land pollutions. These are the major, which includes food pollutions and drinking water and other waters, either agricultural land or it is a grassroots land or many things. So these are the main three areas where any undesirable change take place. Then that particular air, water, or land get polluted, and it is affecting survival of living things. No reason for increasing the natural disasters. Now, before I will go to the causes of the pollutions or increase in the pollutions. Now, if the pollution increase, then what we find in the natural activity. So, over last few decades, we are over-exploiting the planet, over-exploiting the natural resources for our comforts and industrializations. We are doing the activity where over-exploitation of light, that is electricity, over-exploitation of water, over-exploitation of the natural resources, over-exploitation of food, over-exploitation of even the land. And due to this over-exploitations, our planet's degradation of our environment take place. And due to the over-exploitation of the planet environments and the degradation of our environment, it has increased so much high that our actions have been not in favor of protecting the planet. And nature is showing us the effect of our over-exploitations or effect of our adding more and more pollutants in the environment. So natural disasters are striking at much more frequent rate, more often than what we have observed before 20 or 25 years, such as natural disasters, which is increasing at an alarming rate due to increasing environmental pollutions, due to the increasing exploitations of Mother Earth. No, some of them are floods, earthquakes, blizzards, tsunamis, and cyclones. No, why? No, many times we surprised before 20 years, 25 years. No, the earthquake or the tsunamis or cyclones were not so frequent. Why they're becoming so frequent? It is due to we are over-exploiting the earth. We are damaging the balance of a natural ecosystem. And that may be one of the factors and major significant factors for increasing natural disasters. Normally, when we have been asked to say what are the global environmental problems or what are the environmental concerns, mainly people will say the global warming, climate change, ozone depletions, or acid rain. We restrict to ourselves within this 4 or 5. But if you look to the various, and it is not a complete list, but the top vicious environmental concerns, what we should be careful and we have to take care, which includes greenhouse effects, and the greenhouse effects in itself is responsible for global warming and climate change. So it may not be the greenhouse effect, may not be the only one environmental concerns, but it is of 3: global warming, climate change, and greenhouse effects. ozone layer depletions, at least the ozone layer depletions, greenhouse effects, and acid rain. I'm going to discuss a little bit in detail. So I will not talk about this three factor present here. Then next very vicious and significant factor of the environmental concern is loss of biodiversity. Since last 25 years, globally, people are concerned about the biodiversity and conservation of biodiversity and the loss of biodiversity. Most of our anthropogenic activity, they are responsible for the biodiversity loss. And due to this activity, many species, they have come onto the endangered scale and they are about to vanish from the planet Earth. Any living creatures which is made by the nature, no, they are the significant essential component of sustainable environment. Any living creatures which are living on the planet Earth, no, they are very essential part of the normal functioning of elemental cycling, well-being of plants, animals, and including the human beings. So any of this link is destroyed or it is lost, we may find it affects either immediately or after a few years or after a few decades. And once the biodiversity is lost, it is very difficult to regenerate it. So we have to think before doing any activity that any of our industrial activity or urbanizations or even going for the transportations or increasing the agricultural field, increasing the mining area, or we are going to damaging any habitat, natural habitats. Because if once the natural habitats are affected, biodiversity loss is going to occur. And the major significant problems for any of the environmental concern is overpopulations. It is like a coin. No, population is increasing, so their food demand, residential demand, water demand is absolutely increasing. And to provide even the minimum requirement of residence, food and water, clothes, we have to overexploit the resources. And if we will not control the populations, definitely we cannot think about the sustainable environment, healthy planet beyond 2050. Related to the overpopulations, which is directly affecting the natural resources. When we are doing the over exploitation of natural resources, definitely, no, they are depleting. Even if we take the mining area and the natural resources like oil, coal, and metal ions, it takes thousands of years for the formation of natural resources. And due to our greediness, due to our increasing demand, due to industrializations, and we want to live in more and more sophisticated way, we are over-exploiting, we are using the natural resources more than what we should use. And that leads to the depletion of natural resources. The depletion of natural resources, overpopulations, any industrial activity, any domestic activity, which is responsible for air pollutions, water pollutions, and soil and land pollutions. And I'm sure that all of you are well aware of if air is polluted, water is polluted, or soil is polluted, Can we get a healthy life on this planet Earth? Not at all. No, and we have started seeing the effect of this in case of water pollutions. You think about your childhood and childhood of our parents. They never used to carry their drinking water bottle when they are going to school or college. And nowadays, even the child is going to a junior KG or senior KG, or going to the high school, college, or even if you are going in your job, we are carrying water bottle with us. It means we are not trusting the natural water. We know that the natural source of water may have pollutions and that polluted waters may not be potable. So days are not far. If we will not take care of the environmental problem and we will not reduce the activity which are polluting the environment, then we have to carry oxygen bottle to breathe a fresh air. And we have experienced during this corona pandemic, many people have died due to the unavailability of the oxygen. And if the pollution is continuously increasing, we may face same problem for a healthy person. And we have to carry the oxygen bottles on the back of our backsides to get good, clean air. When the soil is polluted, the pollutants get dissolved during the monsoon or after monsoon or during irrigations, and which leads to water pollutions. The pollutants which are solubilized in the soil, and if the plantations are taking place, plant will absorb that pollutants. And if that plants are edible plants or a crop, that will directly come to our food chain, and we get this pollutants in our body. We know that on the basis of available data, since last many years, doctor advise not to give drinking water to newly born baby. They say if you want to give, you have to give that sterile distilled water. Why? Because whatever the water sources we are using, either they are polluted due to the microorganisms, or if you take the UV light and if you sterilize it, but then they are polluted with some of the chemical, where nitrate and nitrite, they are the main culprit. And if newly born baby will be given this nitrite or nitrate containing water, which leads to blue baby disease. And because it is competing, the nitrate and nitrite is competing with the capacity to carry the oxygen, and baby turns blue and may die in no time. Another very significant environmental concern is deforestations and logging. We know what are the effects of the deforestations, which affect the climate change, which affect the amount of the rain what we are getting, which affect the precipitations of the. So, and even the amount of the paper what we are consuming, we are not reducing the consumption of paper, which is the main culprit for the deforestation. Increased carbon footprint. We know that globally, all the developing and underdeveloped country, they are very much concerned about the carbon emissions and carbon footprinting. because that leads to acid water generations and the absorptions of this carbon, and maybe the global change, climate change, and many more the things. Next concern in the 20th century, later part of the 20th century and in the 21st century is development of biotechnology, genetic engineering, gene modification, genetic modifications, genetically engineer crop, genetically engineer animals. If the genetic modification is not controlled properly and scientifically, the type of the pollutions or type of the environmental concern it leads to would be much, much more dangerous as compared to many other environmental concerns. Till today, we are not sure that COVID-19, the coronavirus, it is a natural virus or it is a man-made virus. Because whatever the little bit we know about the normal virus or normal living beings, they have their own specifications. So that virus, if it is living optimally at a cold temperature, it may not proliferate, it may not multiply, it may not spread disease in a tropical area in a hot country like India. If it is reverse, if it is more optimally growing and spreading at a higher temperature or the warm temperature, then it may not cause disease in a country which is having the lower temperatures. And we have seen that it is a pandemic. So there may be some genetic modifications, either have no proof, but people say that it is in the laboratory that virus is genetically modified and it has escaped. And due to this, the pandemic took place. The carbon printings, global warmings, climate change, and greenhouse affecting, which is affecting the marine life. Because we know that 75% of Earth's planet Earth is covered by water. And ocean water, which is absorbing that carbon dioxide, 70% of the carbon dioxide which is generated, which is absorbed in ocean water, which leads to the decrease in the pH, and even 0.1 unit of decrease in pH affect very, very adversely to the aquatic life, mining activity. As we have seen in case of the natural resources, the progress or development of any country is considered in terms of how much metals they are using. And due to this, throughout the world, people are in a blind race of exploiting the natural resources of metal source, coal, petroleum. Public health issues due to many of this activity, either you get air pollution, water pollution, or the food pollutions, maybe pollution due to the physical, chemicals, or biological factors which affect the public health and which create the public health issues. Then the waste, what type of the waste? The domestic or industrial waste which is generated. Natural disasters, what we have mentioned in one of the previous slides, number of tsunami, volcanoes, and many more things which is affecting, which is occurring more frequently. Nuclear issues. Now, we know that since last 4 or 5 months, everyone is anxious and just thinking that what is going to happen tomorrow due to the war between Ukraine and Russia. Because we are worried about if any of this country, if they use the nuclear weapon, what will happen? So this nuclear issue is a critical issue, and we know in last this 4-5 months that even USA and all the country throughout the globe, they are worried that if any of this country, if they use the nuclear weapon, then what will happen? So this nuclear issue are also important. Loss of endangered species. In previous slide, we have seen the diversity in general, and particularly endangered species in specific. As per the data, if we will not take care, in next 10 to 15 years, we are going to lose nearly 500 species which are on the verge of endangered species. So we have to protect them. We have to take care of these species. Now, agriculture pollutions may be creating very vast spread pollution aspects. Because once again, here the greedy nature of human being is playing important, where we want to get more and more productions from the land. We are using more and more fertilizer, we are using more and more insecticide, pesticides, and which is polluting the environment. Light and noise pollutions, overuse of light, over creation of the noise. Urban sprawls or urban spreading, which is increasing due to the activity in the urban area. So the population rise, and they are trying to catch the surrounding area. Biomedical waste, disposal of biomedical waste, which is also a problem and which is creating. Littering and landfilling. Littering means non-scientific way, unorganized way, throwing your waste. And landfilling, whatever waste we are creating, that we are dumping in the landfills. And most important, very most important, which is not having a scientific relevance, but which is responsible for almost many of these problems, and is the poor governance. Why the government is not taking care to promote the green technology, green revolutions? Why it is not forced? Why the charges are not levied more and more for the anything which is polluting the air? We'll go to the next slides. This environmental issue, what I have given, now some of them I try to classify as a local issue, which is mainly, there are many, but no, a significant issue, a local issue is health and sanitation. Regional issue like a water supply or solid waste management. Global issue, many of them, what we are discussing in previous 2 slides. Overpopulation, pollutions, the various types of pollution, depletion of resources, global changes, and the war. In this 21st century, we are afraid of the war. And at the level of groundwater, why I selected Gujarat, because this professor course is conducted in Gujarat and most of the participants from the various colleges of Gujarat. Now, if you consider in terms of the groundwater developments, then this is the area where you'll find 0 to 65% development. These are the area where 65 to 85% development, and this is 85 to 100, and this is some of the area where you'll find more than 100. And you may ask, no, why we concerned with the development? See, development and environmental pollutions are the 2 different sides of coin. If we want to go for the development, you cannot avoid the pollutions. That we'll see now how the development should be done. Now, how the pollution was tackled. Now, here I've used the word tackle, but I think we have to say how pollution was tackled, and till today it is tackled. Now, normally the 3 major considerations we are following, and that is the responsible factor for piling of a pollutants on planet Earth. Is the disposal of best solution of pollutions. Dilution is the best solution of pollutions, and the partial treatment to save money. What we are doing. Now, when we say disposal is the solution of pollution, and that particular concept was followed for many years. Now, we want to keep our home, our society clean. Not thinking, when we talk about ourselves, we are not thinking about our surrounding of our home. When we are considering as a home, we are not thinking about the society. When we consider about the society, we are not considering about the region in which we are living. And we are trying to dispose our waste out of our window, out of our society, or out of our region. We never think that when we dispose from out of a window, then we are polluting the place just below our window. That is our society. And when we are disposing the waste from outside our society, then we are polluting the road, we are polluting the surrounding ground, and so on and so forth. The second consideration, dilution is the solution of pollutions. That is also bad. At some of the places, unfortunately, as there is no other way, the government is also supporting this dilution as the solutions for the pollutions. But dilutions, you are not doing the remediation of pollutions. You are not removing the pollutions. You are just diluting it. So it is like this, no? Whenever we feel any fear and we close our eyes, we think that we have closed our eyes, so now nothing is going to happen. And the same thing we are doing. A colored solutions or a highly turbid solutions, then we think if we throw this or we dispose it or we then pollution control board will notice. So what we are doing, we are diluting it to 10 times or 50 times or 100 times. So amount of the content of the pollutant remains same, only it is get diluted. And when you have to treat the larger volume of a diluted material, it takes more money and it is more difficult. So neither disposal or the dilution are the good solution of pollutions. And the partial treatment. If possible, if the methods are available, we should go for a complete treatment that is up to the mineralizations. So the no intermediate will be formed, no intermediate will be added into the environments and which pollute it. Now, what are the main general causes of global issues? Now, continuous greenhouse gas emissions, which is the main general issue, because gas house emissions leads to climate change and many more problems. Other general global issue is hazardous chemicals of agriculture and industry, use of hazardous chemicals. In case of agriculture, I told you that chemical fertilizers, insecticides, other biocides, pesticides, etc. In industry, to get some products, we are using hazardous chemicals. And if we are not taking care, that leads to a global issues. Man-made nuclear arsenals, man-made nuclear weapons, radioactive waste, biotechnological misuse. As in the previous slide, we have seen about the genetic engineering and genetic manipulations. So biotechnological misuse. Now, many scientists and government, they are worried about the misuse of the biotechnological applications. The best example is the coronaviruses. And if you are manipulating the gene with bad intentions, you create the bioweapons, biohazards, and more things. The other global issues is reckless generation of e-waste. The 21st century, the major solid waste problem globally is the e-waste generations and accumulations. Because annually, nearly 57 million tons of e-waste is generated. Now, these are the data of 2021. And this electronic waste or electrical waste or electrical and electronic equipment waste, which is in short, which is known as e-waste, is having more than 50 to 60 harmful elements of a periodic table present in them. And if they are not properly treated, it creates air pollutions, water pollutions, and land pollutions. Over and misuses of the resources. This due to our green natures. We are over and the misusing the resources. Now we'll come to the three major environmental problems because I cannot discuss the other problems. So greenhouse effects, acid rain, ozone hole. In case of greenhouse effects, we know that the sunlight which is passing through the green gases and which reach to the earth. So this is a greenhouse layer. This is a greenhouse layer. So all the radiation, they are not reaching. No, it gets absorbed with the greenhouse gases. And it is responsible for the climate change, particularly the global warming. And whatever the radiation which is coming, then it reflects back by the greenhouse gases. It reflects by the earth, but some of them will be retained, and which is mainly responsible factors for the continuous increase of the temperature, global warming. Greenhouse gases, which is allow sunlight to pass through the stratosphere, but trap the heat. Sunlight will pass, but watt per meter square, the energy which is present in this radiations. So some of this radiation energy which is trapped, and that result into the rise in the temperatures of Earth surface. And some of this heat escape into the space. Part of it reflect back to the surface by the molecules of greenhouse gases, and which result in the increase in temperature of the air. The natural trapping of heat, which is the effect of greenhouse gases. Now, in terms of pictures, I want to show you that whatever the radiation energy which is coming from the sun, nearly 20% will absorb by the soft wave radiations. And the solar energy which is coming here in the stratosphere and the troposphere, it is 342 watt per meter square. And 30% of this is reflected back by the Earth's surface, clouds and dust particles. And 106 watt per meter square is reflected back. Rest of them which is absorbed here, And then it will be converted into the long wavelength radiations, and which will be sent back through a troposphere, stratosphere to the atmosphere. And that is nearly 70% of incoming solar energy will be sent back, but 30% will retain, and that is responsible for the warming. Net incoming solar radiation is 236 watt per meter square, and 236 watt per meter square is going, but some of them will be trapped in the greenhouse gases. The major greenhouse gases, many of you must be knowing because this is a very vital topic and almost all would like to know this, is carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides. Now, even if you forget about the industries, forget about the vehicle, forget about the other anthropogenic activity, all living creatures, particularly human beings and animals. Now, when they are doing the respirations, they are emitting carbon dioxide. As an individual, when we are living at 2-3 persons, we don't realize that how much carbon dioxide we are emitting. But if you consider the total population of the planet Earth, now the amount of carbon dioxide released would be in terms of a very large quantity. And plants, now they are using this carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So that is the importance of the plantations. If you are not having the green covers, then this carbon dioxide will remain in the atmosphere, it absorb into the ocean water and create problems. Methane, when any anaerobic degradation takes place, then methane is produced. Particularly when any solid waste is dumped. Those who are coming from the Ahmedabad, they know the Piranha dump. And there the methane is generating 24/7. Many times it leads to the fire only. But when it is not taking fire, that methane will mix into the atmosphere. Nitrous oxide, which is produced from the industries and many other processes, which is responsible for acid rain. Other indirect greenhouse gases are carbon monoxides, oxide of nitrogen, halogenated species, mainly chlorofluorocarbons. Now, they are also responsible. Now, here I will give the major contributions of a direct greenhouse gases, which is contributing 80% of a total effect. A direct greenhouse gases which are contributing to the 80% of a total. And among this, 70% is due to the carbon dioxides. So a major environmental pollution concern is decrease the carbon dioxide emissions. Or if we are not able to control the natural phenomena as we want to live, whatever the carbon dioxide we are emitting, we should have the greenery surrounding us. The area, we have to have forests, we have to have trees surrounding our society, surrounding our regions and in the city. 27% contribution is due to methane generations and 3% is the nitrous oxides. So out of 80%, the 70% due to carbon dioxide. So we have to take care of this gas. How these various greenhouse gases, now they are affecting the climate change. So the greenhouse gases, they are, as we have seen in the one of the slides, which absorbs the energy which is present in the radiation which is coming from the sunlight and which leads to a global warming. Due to the global warming, due to the greenhouse effects, the many things will happen. We change the precipitation pattern. Precipitation patterns of a pollutant precipitation pattern in terms of a rainy season and many more. It change in the cropping patterns due to the greenhouse effects, increasing the temperature, global warming, the cropping pattern will change. Change in the flora and fauna community. And that leads to diversity change, diversity loss, loss of many of the endangered species. Due to the greenhouse effects and global warming, new diseases are coming on the planet Earth. We change the disease pattern, we change the treatment and survival of the patient. And what we are more worried about, rising the sea level due to the global warming. Now the temperature will increase, which would be responsible for rising the sea levels. I will give you one or two figures. What is the effect, a pictorial in 2003 due to the heat wave, Altia, now this heat wave, Belgium, the animal has suffered like this. Portugal's definitely, Germany, France, and Britain. No, this shows that how the people are affected. And even in 1 year, due to the heat wave in this country, more than 19,000 people died. So think about, no, every year in India also, during the summer season, many people are dying due to the high temperatures. In 2004, it is just like a miracle. No, if you see this type of the snow on Himalaya or in some the Canada and some other country like it, but now this is a picture of Dubai. It's a very dry and hot area, but due to the climate change in 2004, the snowfall took place in Dubai. The people say, no, it is no, we have to enjoy it. There is no question of enjoyment as a human being. No, those who are living in a very hot area, no, they will feel better due to this snowfall and the temperature go down. But when it is covering such a large area, it affects the habitats, it affects the ecosystem, and that leads to the imbalance of ecosystem. So some of the local variety of a plant, animal, insects, or microorganisms may die, and that adversely affect the surrounding area. Now, why not to think about the India? Now, these are the 4 or 5 pictures due to the climate change calamities, what we have observed in India. Increasing frequency of droughts. Can you see this area? How the people now they are not able to grow any crop. And increased frequency of floods and cyclone, tsunamis. Since last 5-6 years now, we see that almost in a season, almost every state, they are suffering the flood. And very frequently, we have experienced the cyclone. This global warming leads to the ice melt into a sea. Heating of the atmospheric melted the glaciers. And I will not go into the detail about this because I have to finish in 10 or 15 minutes. So climate change, greenhouse effects. Due to the greenhouse gases, climate is changing continuously. In last 2 decades, we have witnessed the development of greenhouse effects on a climate change. And whatever effect we are observing in last 20 to 30 years, which was nearly 2 to 3-fold higher than what it would be expected before 50 years. This greenhouse gas has ability to absorb the radiations and the heat and leads to the global warming. India is highly vulnerable to the climate change because economy is heavily dependent on the climate change sensitive sectors like agriculture and forestry. Due to climate change, if heavy rain, not at a particular time, either before monsoon or at the end of the monsoons, many of our farmers, they lose their crops. Destruction of forestry. And main concern is the low-lying, densely populated coastal lines, which is threatened to potential rise in the sea level. And our economic city, Bombay, is facing this problem. If the care is not taken, then the larger portion of a Bombay city, which is on the coastal line, they would be drawn into a sea due to the rise in the sea level. Now, what is happening that if we look to the data, then estimated that by the end of this 21st century, the maximum temperature rise should be 3 centigrade, not more than that. But it is predicted that the temperature rise may go to the 5.8 degrees centigrade instead of 3 degrees centigrade. And this, even it increase in 0.2 or 0.3 degree, make lot of effects in terms of a millions and million gallon of the, so we can say, ice. So average temperature will continue to rise by 0.1 degree centigrade per 10 years if all the emission will be stopped today, which is not going to happen. And if reduced carbon dioxide absorption capacity of a forest, soil, and the ocean would contribute around 1 to 1.2 degrees centigrade warming at the end of the century. Sea level will rise. 0.1 meter of sea level rise in 2020 due to the melting of the Arctic ice, and millions of people in a tropical low-lying area will be forced to leave their home, exerting pressures on the nearby countries. The effects on India. Due to the melting of Himalaya glaciers, more than 500 million residents living in the Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra river basins, they may lose their residence, they may lose their home, and they have to find out the different shelters. Can you see this? The data is 500 million. The temperature rise between 2 degree to 3 degree is estimated in a loss of between 9 to 25% revenue from the agriculture. Even an increase in the temperature 2 to 3 degree leads to as much as 20% loss of agriculture product, and which is responsible to a 22% of a Indian GDP, which affect a 70% of the employers. Now, this is normally the monsoon season is June to September, which is India is heavily dependent on this for the crop productions, which is now changing. Normally, we find the more rain, not in June, July, but after August. The average rate of the retreat of the Gangotri glaciers has almost 32 meters per year instead of 19 meters per year in 1971. So in 2020-21, the melting has become double, and which is affecting to the residential area. In the East Coast, nearly 104 islands have disappeared in the past 2 decades. No, it's such a large number, 104 islands have disappeared in the ocean due to the rise in the sea. So this, many of us, we are knowing that Earth Summit in 1992, and they have taken all the considerations in 1997. Once again, they have made it the strengthened to quotas. And by 2008 to 2012, they agreed to reduce to this 5.2% below the 1990 level, but it is not achieved. It is everything remaining on the paper. The second problem is the ozone hole. Ozone depletions are related to the observations. One is a slow depletion, another is a fast depletions or slow and steady declines, about 4% per year per decades. And total amount of ozone in Earth's stratosphere since around 1980, 4% has been lost. In case of the larger but the seasonal decrease, what we find in stratosphere, which is known as Earth's polar region during the same, and which is referred as the ozone hole, which is this is ozone hole. The causes is due to the ozones, it is a chlorine-containing gases, primarily CFCs and related halocarbons. Due to this, polar stratosphere clouds and photochemical process will take place. And that result into the hole formation in the ozone layer. And ozone is the layer which absorbs most of the UV light. So if this ozone layer is affected and is already affected on Antarctic region, so due to this, consequence is increased UV light which is coming on the planet Earth, which leads to more increased rate of the skin cancers, cortical cataracts, increase in the tropospheric ozones, which affect the crop and which affect also planktonic growth. Now, this is a picture of a ozone hole, which was observed in September 2006, 27.5 million square kilometer. See how much area it is affected. Area affected was 27.5 million square kilometers, this ozone hole populations. And which so people are ready. There are some technical problems, there are technical solutions, though some of their policy solutions, such as technical solutions means we have to take care and we have to decrease the emission of the harmful gases. We have to change the technology. As in most of the refrigerator now, the gas which is used, it is changed. Then policy, Montreal Protocol and ozone depleting substance rules and every considerable times, the world organization, they are taking place and they are taking care of this. In 1994, United Nations General Assembly to designate September 16 as a World Ozone Day. And we are celebrating, but we are not celebrating just for the sake of celebrating. We are not taking care for the decrease in the greenhouse gases or the other pollutants which are responsible for the ozone depletion. Another point, acid rain. The term acid rain, or more accurately, it is known as acid precipitation, is commonly used to mean the deposition of an acidic component in rain, in snow, in dew, or in dry particles. So a acidic component, it is not a rain, acidic component which get deposited either in the rain, that is rainy water, either they are deposited in the snow. Sometimes you'll find the blackish snow due to the presence of sulfur, which is converted into black dews or even dry particles. The responsible chemicals for the acid precipitation or acid rain, the major one are sulfur dioxides and nitrogen oxides. Both this, when it will come in contact with the water or water vapor or moistures, they convert it into sulfuric acid and nitric acids. And sulfuric and nitric acids will get precipitated, and which is responsible for the destruction of crop, destruction of many animals, and destruction of aquatic life. The causes of the natural phenomena, emissions from a volcanoes, the natural biological phenomena, natural biological process which is taking place on the land, wetlands, and ocean due to the increase in populations and due to the day-to-day activity which releases carbon dioxide and all these things, gases, which is also responsible for acid rains. Human activity, industrialization, transportations, power generations. These are the three main sources of sulfur dioxides and nitrous oxide emissions, which result into the development of acid rain or acid precipitations. The impact of the acid rain or acid precipitations is in forest, No, it is unbelievable. Many times a few kilometer area of the forest destroyed due to the acidic rain, due to the acid precipitations. A green plant turned to the black plants. Fresh waters and organism present in the fresh waters. It makes our soil acidic, which affects the crop productions and even in the growth of the plants. Aquatic and insect life are affected due to the acidic water. And monuments, buildings, our house, the corrosion will take place. The concrete building will also get corroded due to the acidic precipitations. And human health. A drinking water with what we require, it should be near to the neutral pH, but due to acid rain. Now that is why many times now many companies have started to give the alkaline water as a drinking purpose. It is how safe that we have to check and we have to understand. But any water or anything which is acidic, which may be having harmful effects on our body. Now this is what I said. Forest. To show you the slides, devastating effect of the forest. This slide is the effect of acid rain on a forest. Jizera Mountains, Czech Republics. Can you see? Can you imagine that before this acid precipitation, all these trees were green like this? Can you see all more than 99% of a tree burnt out? It becomes like a skeleton. It becomes like a skeleton. And it will take many years to go for the reforestation, regeneration of this forest. So the acid rain or acid precipitations have an effect on a very larger area. Solution for the acid precipitations on the preventions, we can do it in terms of a technical classifications. Try to use less sulfur containing minerals. Use less sulfur containing particularly coal. We are using coal for the electric generations or fuels, and that's most of the coal, either it is pyrite or lignites or coal, they have various amount of the sulfur content. So you should not go for high sulfur containing coal or electricity generations. Otherwise, it leads to the sulfur dioxide emissions and result into the acid rain, desulfurizations. That's why desulfurizations is a process which is used. Any coal sample or any lignite sample, what we are using, if it is having more than 0.8 or 0.6% of a sulfur or pyrites of sulfur containing material, then before its combustions, we have to go for desulfurization. And the combustion control of this oil or the other fuels which are having more. International treaties, like the international treaties are take place, and to reduce the sulfur emissions. So any process you are doing, and if it is having the sulfur emissions, then you may not get permission from them. And emission trading, that is to minimize indirectly the emission of a sulfur and nitrogen oxides. Now, the depletion of resources, of a renewable resources and non-renewable resources, the causes for depletions is nothing but over exploitations, our more and more demand, increased industrializations, and going for frequent change of the material. Now, if I give you one example, how we are responsible for the depletion of the sources. Water, when we go to the washroom, before we start brushing, no, we stop the tap and water will flow for 2-3 minutes. We won't use it, but we are wasting it. So we have to go for the use of a more and more renewable resources in place of non-renewable resources. We have to use the radiation energy, sunlight, which is renewable. We have to use water instead of the coal and the wood. Sustainable utilizations or development. I don't say that we don't want to develop, but it should be a sustainable utilizations, and then we have to go for the development. So whenever we choose any material for sustainability of environment, for sustainability of development, we have to find out the origin of that material. Then we have to track the path from which portions that material which is originated and it reached to you. So when you are using it, when you are over exploiting it, you will come to know that you are affecting this many points through which that material has passed through. Then we have to find out where we are using it, where we are misusing it, and where we are doing the overuse of this, unnecessary use of this. If that material is renewable or is non-renewable. If it is non-renewable, we have to find out the alternative as a renewable material. If it is unsustainable use, then we have to prevent the unsustainable use. What we are doing, what we should not do, disappropriate use of water, food, electric energy, fossil fuel, paper, plastics, natural resources, and in this 21st century, the electronic gadgets, electronic equipments. Now, a person like me, or we can say those who are above the age of 50, no, they are using, in general, they are using their mobiles for 5-6 years. And the younger generations, they change their mobile by every 2 years or 2.5 years. So this creates a lot of e-waste problem that create a lot of other environmental problems. So disproportionate use of anything which create the environmental pollutions. Then what we should do? Either it is 3R formula, 4R or 5R formula. I have tried to give you the 5R formula here. Normally people will say the 3R formula, 3 R's. Reduce the use. If it is not necessarily, we should not use any of the resources. Suppose in this season, if you don't want to use AC, don't put on. You just put on your fan. So reduce the use of the thing. Even if you are forced to use it, any material, then we have to find out the reuse. No, we talk about the plastic and plastic pollutions, but no, we never carry the cotton bags. We take the plastics. So after coming to home, we throw these plastics. You have to go for recycling. Whatever material which is possible to recycle, we have to recycle. Reduce use, reuse, recycle, or regenerate. We have to find out the ways and means to regenerate that material. So we are not affecting the other non-renewable resources. And regrowth. If wherever possible, you have to go for the regrowth. Now, if we follow this 5R formula, that would be the solution for many, many environmental problems. So finally, now before I end, I want to go for a small quotations. Once upon a time, one got up to the sound of birds, not horns, that vehicle horns. We have to make the environment is such that we can get up with the sound of a birds. The sun never used to hide behind a cloud of haze. Now many times, no, even the winter and summer, we will see the sun which is hide behind the cloud of a pollutants. You all never had to breathe air through a hanky. We should get the air which is as pure as we need not to use the oxygen cylinder with us. Trees used to wear an umbrella of green leaves. Can once again a time will come? Can once upon a time come again? Yes, it will come again if we take care. Answer is yes. Once upon a time can come again, and sustainable development is a way towards improving the environment. Not only the development, but sustainable development is a way towards improving the environment. It is not environment or development. Try to understand that it is not environment or development, but it should be environment and the development. We want to do any development, not by harming the environment. We have to protect the environment and we have to do the environment. So the message which is given by Evo Morales, sooner or later, we will have to recognize that the earth has right to live without pollutions. That when we are polluting, we have to understand that Mother Earth have right to live. Not only we, even the Mother Earth has right to live without pollutions. And the second thing, which is very much striking, and what we have to understand, what mankind should know is that human being cannot live without Mother Earth. We cannot live without Earth. But the planet can live without us. Without human being, planet can, and they can enjoy their health. Only we are responsible for making the Earth or our planet unhealthy. So what we should decide today, I want to give the message, this 3 message. Please tell me, this is the time for you to say and decide, and for me to say and decide for the protection of our Mother Nature. And I'm sure that all of us will follow this, at least at our local level, at least our personal level. We will take care that we will not add any more pollutants, and we try to save our nature Earth. Thank you very much for your patience to listening these lectures. And I am very much thankful for giving me this opportunity. If you have any questions, now my email address is there. Just if you give that to questions, I would try my level best to solve some of your questions. Thank you very much once again. And once again, I thank you the Gujarat University and the organizers for the refresher course for giving me this opportunity and serving to my mother university, where I have served for 35 years, and I have developed what I am. That is, I have developed due to my service in the Gujarat University. Thank you very much.